Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Shook again with our Grade 2 Skills, Unit 1, Lesson 2. Let's get started. Our learning goals for today: be able to read and produce the following letter sounds: a, k, and g. Blend, segment, and spell one-syllable words with the vowel sounds a, and letter sounds. Read and a given shared text that we're going to work on together, and then respond to questions about that text. So let's get started. First, let's review our vowel sounds from Lesson 1. When we hear the sound a, we know it will always be spelled with the single letter A, like in hat. When we hear the vowel sound I, we know that most of the time, based on a really long power bar, it will be spelled with the vowel I, as in it. Our new vowel sound for today, one of them, is letter E. Good job. As you can see by the power bar, this is one of the most common ways to spell the sound, as in pet. So if you hear most of the time, it will be spelled with the single letter E. Let's add that to our chart. Will be spelled E in most of the words. Our next vowel is what letter? Good job, letter U. And you can see that there are other ways to spell this letter sound. The word is but. I would like to go outside, but it is raining. You hear the sound in the word but. So, when you hear sometimes it will be spelled with the letter U. Our next vowel is, very good, letter O, as in hop, So, adding it to our chart, we can see that there are a couple of ways, but the most common way to spell the sound is with the letter O. Okay. Now, your individual code chart, this is still on page 7. If you don't have the code chart, simply add onto the paper you started in Lesson 1. You already have the A for the I for I, so now let's add E for and U for and O for . Again, if you don't have the code chart, simply write it out and trace it with green. If you have your code chart on page 7, trace it in green. Good job. So this tells us that if we want to make these letter sounds, so far we know to use these letter spellings. All right, our consonant review. For the sound P, we know that most of the time it will be spelled with the letter P. For the letter sound B, we know that most of the time it will be spelled with a single letter B. For the the consonant sound T, we know that most of the time it will be spelled with the letter T. Okay, for the letter sound D, we know that the most common spelling is the single letter D. All right, our new consonant sounds for today. What letter do you see here? Good, letter C, as in cat. So, when you hear the k sound, by our power bar, we can tell that most of the time it will be spelled with a single letter C, but there are other spellings. So, adding it to our chart, we see that k is most often spelled with the letter C, as in cat. All right, now we have what letter? Good job, letter G, as in gift. So, G. And once again, we can see there are other spellings, but the single letter G is the most common way to spell the sound G. Add that to our chart, a single G for G. Okay, now back to your individual code book. If you don't have the actual pages, you can just write them out. So if you do have them, you're going to trace over them in red, whether you use a crayon, marker, color pencil, anything you have. But make sure you can still see the letters. So for the sound K, we learned that one of the more common spellings is the letter C. And for the sound G, we learned that one of the more common spellings is the letter G. Alrighty. We are going to work on spelling a word. So, think about all the letter spellings we've practiced so far. And the word I'm going to write is get. Like, I would like to get a 100 on my test. I would like to get some ice cream. All right, get. G, a, t. Those are my 3 sounds I hear. G, a, t. To spell it, G is G, A is E, and T is T. Get. Good job. Okay, take a chance and you sound the word out. G, A, T. And then blend it. Get. Good job. Now, let's practice chaining and changing our word. If we take off the G, there we go, and add a P, now we have p, at, pet. Take out the E and add an A, now we have p, at, pat. Try this with me if you're not already. Take off the P and add a B, now we have b, at, bat. Taking off the B, adding a C, k, at, cat. Take off the A, add an O, k, at, cot. Take off the C and add a T. Now we have t, at, tot. Taking off the T and adding the letter P, we end with t, op, top. Good job. All right, our next word, we're going to start with got. G-A-T. G-A-T. I know G is a letter G, A is an O, and T is once again T. Okay, let's get started. Take off the G, add a C to k-a-t, cot. Take out the O, add a U, k-a-t, cut, cut. Take off the T, add a P, k-up, cup, cup. Take off the P, add a B to k-ub, cub. A little baby animal, a cub, a bear cub. Take out the U, add an A, k-ab, cab. Taking out the B, adding a P, and we end with k-ap, cap. Great job. All right, now it's another dictation portion. I'm going to say one word, and you're going to write it in your notebook. Again, you can use your individual code chart just like you did in lesson 1. So listen very carefully to the word I say. Use your code chart for help if you need it, and then write the word you hear. Okay, when you're ready with your pencil and paper, you're going to write the word that I say. Very carefully listen. Tub. I put my dog in the tub to give him a bath. Tub. And once again, you can use your individual code chart to help you sound out the word. Okay, now we're going to go over the word that we just did. Tub. T-a-b. Tub. Did you have t-a-b? T-u-b? Great job if so. If not, that's okay, because we're still practicing. And you'll get better as you practice some more. Tub. T-a-b. Great job. Okay, now we're moving on to part 2 of our lesson, the reading. Yesterday we read the first story in the series, Kate Visits Nan. In that story we talked about Kate was going to visit her grandmother, and they just got an offer, that was one of our spelling words, an offer to go camping with Jake and Max, who was a grandson and grandfather. Today's story is called The Campsite. All right, and the reason we're reading this story, our purpose today, is to find out all about the campsite. Okay, this is yesterday's story. Let's review. Where does Kate's grandmother, Nan, live? Now, if you don't remember, always look back in the story. So I'm Kate Skipper, and last summer when I was 9, my mom and dad took me to visit my Nan. Nan is my mom's mom. She's an artist and has a cabin out in the west. Out in the west, that's where she lives. So, rereading this first paragraph, we found that she lives in the west. Here's a map of the United States. This over here is New York State, where we all live. Over here, this part of the country is called the West. So Nan lives in the west, the western portion of the United States. All right, today's story is called The Campsite. Our first vocabulary word, which you'll see is highlighted in the story, campsite. It's the place you set up your tent when you go camping. And legend. A legend is a story that has been told for a long time, and many know the story, but it can't be proven true. So it may have happened, it may not, but a lot of people know the story, and it keeps getting told over and over again. Okay, let's read this story. Now, just like last time, I will read the whole thing. As I'm going, I will point to you. During those times, try to read with me. You can read the whole thing with me as well. Okay, let's start by reading together. The Campsite. Jake came and picked us up in his Jeep. We drove to a campsite in the Badlands. Nan, I said, what's up with that name, the Badlands? Well, said Nan, legend has it that a long time back, farmers came out here looking for farmland. So they were looking for a place to farm. When they saw all of the rocks and sand and stone, they said, this is bad land. We can't plant crops here. And the name Badlands just sort of stuck. It's bad land for farming, said Jake, but it's good land for camping. So Jake and Max and Nan and Kate are all camping in the Badlands. When we got to the campsite, we had to unpack sleeping bags, tents, lanterns, matches, and lots of food. We lugged it all to the campsite. Jake chose a spot to set up camp. Max and I helped set up the tents. It took us a long time. For dinner, we had hot dogs. We stuck them on sticks and held them in the fire. My hot dog got all black because I left it in there too long. Max gave me one of his. That was when I said to myself, this Max kid is okay. You can see in the picture, Nan and Jake and Max and Kate, they have their their hot dogs on a stick, roasting them over the fire, enjoying their campsite. Okay, question number 1 that we'll do together. Who drove the Jeep to the campsite? Remember, when you're answering these questions, read all of the choices they give you, whether there's 3 or more. Read all the choices, and then if you have to, look back on the story to remind you. Who drove the Jeep to the campsite? A. Nan drove the Jeep to the campsite. B. Kate drove the Jeep to the campsite. Or C. Jake drove the Jeep to the campsite. Now, before we even go back to the story, let's think. Who are these characters? Nan is a grandma, so she would be old enough to drive. Jake is the grandpa to Max, so he's old enough to drive. But Kate, we learned, is only 9. So if she's 9, she's not old enough to drive. So we know that B is not an option. So is it A, Nan, or C, Jake? Let's go back and look. Jake came and picked us up in his Jeep. So if Jake is picking them up in the Jeep, he is the one driving. So to answer this question, it is C, Jake. Good job. Okay. There will be a few more questions about this story, as well as some more dictation to work on from the beginning part of our lesson. You're going to use your Google Forms. It will be Skills Unit 1, Lesson 2. You're going to, once again, type the words that you hear me say on the Google form, and just like before, you can still use your individual code chart to help you remember the sounds that we've practiced. And if you don't have it, here are the letter sounds we've done so far. Remember, vowels are in green, consonants are in red. Here's the story that we've read, if you need that to look at again. And great work today. Good job. Bye.